Bright Memory Infinite is a game somewhat burdened by its development history, as a mostly one-man indie project that garnered a ton of interest and hype around the launch of the current-gen consoles in late 2020. The initial release, Bright Memory, was an interesting proof of concept, initially envisioned as the first of several chapters to be released periodically. It was a stylish, visually striking, but rough around the edges first-person shooter, with a focus on blisteringly fast movement and combo-based action that blended traditional gunplay with sword and exosuit powers. Releasing first on PC, Bright Memory Infinite arrives on consoles 8 months later as the Platinum Edition, which just means a bunch of cosmetic DLC thrown in. It reworks Bright Memory's framework and several concepts into a cohesive 2 to 3 hour experience with a budget price tag. It's also pretty decent, if you keep your expectations in check. Bright Memory Infinite often feels like a montage of video game history, hurtling you from familiar set-piece to set-piece. One of the earliest is an on-the-rail cinematic scene with QuickTime events, a feature so dated in 2022 that I failed most of them the first time, before realizing what was happening. There's twitch shooting as you're funneled through exterior levels that function as dressed-up corridors, a few simple platforming sections that rely on double jumping, wall running, and a grapple, a contrived stealth section with a rudimentary detection meter, a rocket-launching spy car chase, and frequent arena battles against large mobs or tough bosses that force you to keep mobile to survive. Now, that's not to say the gameplay feels entirely derivative, as it rewards combo-focused attacks, a mix of gunplay and powers, and this is essential for handling crowds and tougher enemies with shields or some sort of defensive bar. All your conventional weapons have a powerful secondary ammunition type that tends to trivialize many encounters, while your exosuit grants you the ability to pull, push, lift, or even rocket punch your foes. Meanwhile, your sword can block most attacks, deflect bullets and rockets, and quickly slice an enemy to pieces. Every ability is smartly mapped to the gamepad, so you can switch them up on the fly, something that's essential for the hectic bullet sponge boss fights that often leave you with little space to charge up your most powerful attacks. Of course, a razor-focused budget title will usually have caveats. In the case of Bright Memory Infinite, it's a borderline non-existent plot, predictable level structure, and an upgrade system that, in part, feels tacked on. Starting with the narrative issues, you get a lengthy opening cutscene, some mid-game cutscenes, an exposition dump finale, and plenty of radio conversations. However, there's zero world building, no insight into the organization Shelia works for, no context for the human military faction you're fighting against, and no explanation as to why everyone is so calm about the sudden appearance of a black hole. The bulk of the dialogue in-game is just military orders or vaguely coherent scientific babble. It's clear a decent amount of effort went into directing the cutscenes, so it's a shame they add so little to the experience. My other issues are both related to Bright Memory Infinite's short length. On one hand, you've got the predictable level structure that sees you platform or shoot your way down a corridor, enter an arena for a boss or mini-boss battle, watch a small cutscene, and repeat. My first playthrough clocked in at only 2 hours 20 minutes, yet the repetitive flow was wearying by the end. On the other hand, the world is also littered with reliquaries, or fragments of them, that you collect to unlock upgrades for your weapons, sword, and exosuit. Unlocking each new secondary fire mode or power attack makes sense, and it feels impactful to combat, but these subsequent incremental upgrades feel pointless given the short runtime. Now, going back to the positives, the audiovisual experience is consistently good, edging on great if you're a fan of some environment or creature designs. I think the most important aspect of the presentation is appreciating that this is effectively one man's vision, brought to life as a solo developer with modern tools. Even during moments I wanted to roll my eyes at some terrible dialogue or a contrived situation, I couldn't help but appreciate the passion that went into crafting Bright Memory Infinite. That said, the visuals are not quite as next-gen as originally hyped up, especially as they managed a native Switch port. But the image is crisp, the effect works over the top, and the performance was rock solid on both Xbox Series consoles. Environments, while often impressive in scope, do highlight the dated level design, especially when you find yourself constantly butting into invisible walls, or dealing with inconsistent climbing logic. Detailed character and weapon models are a highlight, and any game with a dedicated Admire Gun button deserves a bonus point. The audio was generic enough that it left no lasting impressions, but the sound of gunfire, sword strikes, and the soundtrack all did a solid job of complementing the action. As for the voice actors, well, they do the best they can with the lines they're given. Just when you think the debate about the Switch not being powerful enough is going to roll around again, something like this Bright Memory Infinite port comes along to remind you that A, the Switch is actually a pretty nifty and capable machine, and B, it's up to the developers how they use it. fyqd-studio has managed to port a game that really doesn't look like it should run on the Switch to the Switch. If you want the short version, Bright Memory Infinite on the Switch is super pretty indeed. Even more important is that none of this visual flair comes with any performance issues at all. In fact, the game runs like a dream. Sure, you'll see low-resolution textures and low-polygon models in the environments, yet it remains stunning throughout, well, at least when not docked, with some stunning Chinese architecture on display. The Switch port even offers VSync, which has no notable performance impact, an FOV slider, and 3 options for motion blur strength. The meat of the game, of course, is the combat, which remains satisfyingly fun with wall-running combat slides and a shoot-and-slash combo focus. It may run a little on the short side, but the Switch port is well worth it if you're looking to game on the go. Wrapping up, I had a fun time tearing through Bright Memory Infinite, enough so that I immediately tackled a second campaign run on a higher difficulty. Given the limitations, brevity is a strength in this case, and might have knock-on benefits. I've got no doubt there are collision issues and cutscene triggers to break, but even without glitches, I could see Bright Memory Infinite remaining a solid choice for speedrunners with a focus on pure optimization. For everyone else, if you're after an entertaining but short FPS you could clear in an evening, and you can appreciate passion projects that are somewhat derivative of their inspirations, Bright Memory Infinite is a good pick. The budget pricing goes a long way to increasing the appeal, while PC players have no excuse not to try it out given the free upgrade path.